Commander Vextar stood before the massive holographic display in the control room of the Zephyrian Empire's warship. The display showed hundreds of star systems, each one marked with different colors. Green meant conquered worlds. Red meant worlds that fought back and were destroyed. Blue meant worlds that were next on the list. He was tall and thin, with gray skin that looked like old metal. His forearms moved quickly as he touched the glowing screens around him. For 200 years he had been doing this same job: find new worlds, study them, mark them for conquest. It was simple work, but important work. "Show me the next group," he said to the computer. His voice was cold and flat, like someone who had seen too much death. The display changed. 20 new star systems appeared. Most of them were empty, with no life at all. A few had simple creatures that could not think or build things. But one system caught his attention. It was called Soul in the human language. The third planet from the star looked interesting. "Computer, give me the full report on Sol 3, he ordered. The planet appeared in front of him, spinning slowly. It was blue and green and white, with large oceans and land masses. It looked peaceful and pretty. The computer began to speak in its mechanical voice. Sol 3 is inhabited by a single species called humans. Population, approximately 8 billion. Technology level, primitive. They have basic nuclear weapons and simple space travel. They have not left their solar system. The species is divided into many small nations that fight each other often." Commander Vextar nodded. This was the same story he had heard thousands of times before. A young species still fighting among themselves with weak technology. They would be easy to conquer. "Show me their weapons," he said. The display changed again. He saw images of human tanks, planes, and ships. They looked crude and ugly compared to Zephyrian technology. Their biggest bombs could destroy cities. But Zephyrian weapons could destroy entire continents. Their fastest ships moved at a tiny fraction of light speed. Zephyrian ships could cross the galaxy in days. "How many ships do they have in space?" he asked. 12 functioning military vessels. All of them are in orbit around their planet. They have no weapons that can threaten our ships from that distance. Commander Vextar laughed. It was a sound like breaking glass. 12 ships. The Zephyrian Empire had conquered worlds with thousands of ships. This would not even be a real battle. "Mark Sol 3 for immediate conquest," he said. "Send the usual fleet. 3 heavy cruisers should be enough." "Yes, Commander," the computer replied. "Fleet Admiral Corvin has been assigned to lead the mission. Estimated time to target, 14 days. Commander Vextar turned away from the display. In 2 weeks, there would be one more green dot on his map. The humans would either surrender or die. Either way, their world would belong to the Empire. Far away. On the blue planet that the aliens called Sol 3, Dr. Lisa Morgan was having trouble sleeping. She sat in her small office at the radio telescope facility, staring at the data on her computer screen. For 3 weeks, she had been seeing strange signals from the edge of the solar system. The signals were very weak and seemed to come from empty space. They did not match any known natural phenomena. They were too organized, too regular. They looked like the kind of signals that intelligent beings might make. Dr. Lisa Morgan was 52 years old and had been searching for signs of alien life for most of her career. She had seen thousands of false alarms. Strange signals that turned out to be broken satellites, solar flares, or equipment problems. But these signals were different. They felt different. She heard footsteps in the hallway outside her office. Dr. Ryan Patterson knocked on her door and came in. He was her research partner and oldest friend at the facility. "You are working late again?" he said. "You should go home and get some sleep." "Look at this," Lisa said, pointing to her screen. "These signals have been getting stronger for 3 weeks. They are definitely artificial." Ryan looked at the data and shook his head. "Lisa, we have been through this before. These could be signals from a broken satellite or interference from solar activity. You cannot jump to conclusions, but what if they are not?" Lisa asked, "What if someone is out there, watching us?" Then we will detect them with better equipment when we get more funding next year, Ryan said. Right now, we cannot prove anything. The signals are too weak and too unclear. Lisa looked back at her screen. The signals were getting stronger each day. Whatever was making them was getting closer to Earth. She had a bad feeling about this, but she could not explain why. I'm going to keep monitoring them, she said. Something is coming, Ryan. I can feel it, Ryan sighed. Fine, but do not stay. Up all night again? We have a staff meeting tomorrow morning. After Ryan left, Lisa sat alone in her office. Outside, she could see the stars through her window. Earth seemed so small and alone in the vast darkness of space. For years, she had hoped to find proof that humans were not alone in the universe. Now, she was starting to think that might not be a good thing. The signals on her screen pulsed steadily, like a heartbeat. Something was out there in the darkness, and it was coming closer. Lisa had spent her whole life wanting to make contact with alien life. Now she wondered if humanity was ready for what might be coming their way. She picked up her phone and started to dial the number for the Defense Department. Someone needed to know about these signals. Someone needed to be prepared for what might happen next. The night was quiet around the radio telescope facility. Above, the stars looked peaceful and beautiful. But somewhere in that darkness, ships were moving toward Earth. Ships that carried weapons and soldiers from an empire that had conquered hundreds of worlds. The Zephyrian Empire had made their choice. Earth would be their next target. But they did not know what they were about to face. They had studied human weapons and human technology. They had counted human ships and human soldiers, but they had not understood what made humans dangerous. Soon, both sides would learn the truth. The universe was about to become a much more dangerous place. The alarm bells were ringing all through the space monitoring station in Colorado. Dr. Lisa Morgan ran down the hallway as fast as she could, her heart pounding in her chest. The emergency lights were flashing red, and people were shouting orders to each other. What is happening? She asked Dr. Ryan Patterson, who was standing at the main control panel. 3 massive objects just appeared near Jupiter, Ryan said, his voice shaking. They are huge, Lisa. Each one is the size of a small city. Lisa looked at the main screen. The objects were dark and angular, like giant metal pyramids floating. In space, they had appeared out of nowhere, as if they had been invisible before. Her worst fears were coming true. How big are they exactly? She asked. The largest one is 30 kilometers long. The other 2 are about 20 kilometers each. They are sending out energy signatures that our equipment can barely measure. Lisa felt sick to her stomach. After weeks of detecting strange signals, the source had finally revealed itself. But these ships were far bigger and more advanced than anything she had imagined. Admiral Jake Collins was in his office at the Pentagon when his emergency phone rang. He was a tall man with gray hair and tired eyes. He had been in the military for 30 years, but he had never faced anything like this. Admiral, we have a situation, the voice on the phone said. 3 unidentified vessels have appeared in our solar system. They are massive, sir. Bigger than anything we have ever seen. Are they ours? Admiral Collins asked, already knowing the answer. No, sir. They appeared near Jupiter about 10 minutes ago. Our satellites are tracking them now. They seem to be scanning our planet. Admiral Collins felt his blood turn cold. This was the call he had hoped would never come. Humanity had always wondered if they were alone in the universe. Now they had their answer, and it did not look good. Get me the president immediately, he ordered, and contact every military base on the planet. I want all of our ships ready for launch in 30 minutes. Sir, our ships are not designed for combat in space. They are mostly science vessels and supply ships. Then we will have to make do with what we have, Admiral Collins said. This is not a drill. Within an hour, every television and radio station on Earth was broadcasting the same incredible news. Alien ships had arrived in the solar system. The images from space telescopes showed the 3 massive vessels clearly. They were definitely not human technology. President Susan Clark sat in the emergency meeting room deep under the White House. Around the table were the most important people in the government and military. Everyone looked worried and scared. "Tell me exactly what we are dealing with," President Clark said to General Kevin Brooks, who was the head of Earth's combined military forces. "3 ships, Madam President. Each one is larger than our biggest aircraft carriers. They appeared without warning, which means they have technology we do not understand. They are currently holding position near Jupiter, but they are definitely scanning Earth. What do we have to defend ourselves with?" the President asked. General Brooks opened a file on his tablet. "We have 12 military spacecraft currently in orbit. 8 are armed with basic missile systems. 4 have experimental railgun weapons. On the ground, we have nuclear weapons, but they would be useless against targets in space." "That is all?" President Clark asked. "I am afraid so, Madam President. Our space program was designed for exploration, not war. We never expected to face this kind of threat." Everyone in the room was quiet. 12 small ships against 3 massive alien vessels. It was not even a fair fight. Then every communication device in the room started making noise at the same time. Phones, radios, computers, even the emergency broadcast system. The same signal was coming through every channel. "This is Fleet Admiral Corvin of the Zephyrian Empire," a voice said. It was speaking English, but with a strange accent. "We are addressing the dominant species of the planet you call Earth." The voice was cold and emotionless. It sounded like someone who had done this many times before. "Your world has been selected for integration into our empire. You have 72 hours to surrender unconditionally. All military forces must stand down. All government leaders must prepare for transfer of authority to our administrators." On the screens around the room, images appeared. They showed other planets, other worlds that had been conquered by the Zephyrian Empire. Some showed cities burning, others showed populations being loaded onto transport ships. A few showed planets that were completely empty, their surfaces turned to glass. "These are the worlds that chose to resist," the voice continued. "Resistance is futile. Your technology is primitive. Your weapons are ineffective. Your ships are toys compared to our fleet. However, the Empire prefers cooperation to destruction. Surrender now, and your species will be preserved as a labor force. Resist, and you will be eliminated. You have 72 hours to decide." The transmission ended. The room was completely silent. President Clark was the first to speak. "General Brooks, how long would we last in a fight?" "Honestly, Madam President, probably less than an hour. Their ships are too big, too advanced. Our weapons might not even be able to damage them." "So, we surrender?" asked the Secretary of Defense. "We consider all options," President Clark said firmly. "Admiral Collins, get every scientist and engineer on the planet working on this. I want to know everything about these ships. I want to know if there is any way to fight them." Admiral Collins nodded. "Yes, Madam President. But we should be realistic about our chances." "Maybe we should try to talk to them," suggested the Secretary of State. "Perhaps we can negotiate better terms." "Did you see those images?" General Brooks asked. "They do not negotiate, they conquer." As the meeting continued, people around the world were watching the news in shock and fear. The alien ships hung in space like dark omens. Everyone knew that life on Earth was about to change forever. In her office, Dr. Lisa Morgan was still monitoring the signals from the alien ships. They were stronger now, more complex. The ships were not just scanning Earth, they were studying it, learning about human technology and defenses. "We are not ready for this," she said to Ryan. "Is anyone ever ready for something like this?" "Ryan," replied Lisa looked out the window at the night sky. Somewhere up there, 3 ships carried weapons that could destroy entire continents. In less than 3 days, humanity would either surrender or face extinction, but something inside her refused to give up. Humans had survived ice ages, plagues, and wars. They had always found a way to fight back against impossible odds. Maybe they would find a way to survive this too. The countdown had begun. 72 hours to decide the fate of the human race. Dr. Lisa Morgan had not slept in 36 hours. She sat in front of her computer, studying the alien signals with eyes that burned from exhaustion. The coffee next to her had gone cold hours ago, but she did not care. She had discovered something important, something that might change everything. "Ryan, come here and look at this," she called to her partner. Dr. Ryan Patterson walked over to her desk. "What did you find?" "The aliens have been scanning us for months, not days," Lisa said, pointing to her screen. "Look at these signal patterns. They go back at least 4 months. They have been watching us, studying us, learning about us." That makes sense," Ryan said. "They would want to know what they are dealing with before they attack." "But that is not the interesting part," Lisa continued. "Look at what they have been scanning. Our military bases, our weapons factories, our government buildings. They have been studying our wars, our technology, our military capabilities." Ryan frowned. "So they know how weak we are." "That is what I thought too," Lisa said. "But then I realized something. They have been watching our news broadcasts, our military exercises, our weapons tests. They see us fighting each other all the time. They see our wars and our weapons." "And?" Ryan asked. "They think they understand us, but they do not. They see humans fighting humans, and they think we are just another species that fights for territory or resources. They do not understand what they are really seeing." Lisa pulled up another screen showing human history. "Look at this. In the last 100 years, humans have fought 2 world wars, dozens of smaller wars, and countless battles. We have built weapons that can destroy entire cities. We have created strategies to fight enemies with better technology than us. We have been preparing for this without knowing it," Ryan said, beginning to understand. "Exactly. Every war we have fought, every weapon we have built, every tactic we have developed, it was all practice for fighting someone stronger than us. The aliens think we are primitive, but we are not. We are a species that has been training for war for thousands of years." Lisa grabbed her phone and started dialing. "I need to call the president. This changes everything." 2 hours later, Lisa was sitting in the emergency meeting room with President Susan Clark and the military leaders. She had explained her discovery to them, and now they were all staring at her with new hope in their eyes. "So, you are saying the aliens do not really understand what they are dealing with?" President Clark asked. "That is correct, Madam President." Lisa said, "They see our technology and think it is primitive. They see our weapons and think they are weak, but they do not understand the context. They do not understand that every human weapon was designed to fight other humans who were trying to kill us." General Kevin Brooks leaned forward. "What do?" "You mean, think about it," Lisa said. "Most species in the galaxy probably developed technology to explore space or to make their lives better. Humans developed technology to survive and to fight. Our nuclear weapons were not built to power cities. They were built to destroy our enemies. Our space program was not just for exploration, it was to put weapons in orbit." Admiral Jake Collins nodded slowly. "Every piece of technology we have, every strategy we use, it all comes from thousands of years of warfare. The aliens think we are like the other species they have conquered," Lisa continued. "Peaceful creatures who build ships to explore and weapons to defend. But we are not. We are predators. We are survivors. We are a species that has been fighting for its entire existence." President Clark stood up. "What do you recommend we do with this information?" "We send them a message," Lisa said, "not a surrender." "Not a plea for mercy, a warning." "A warning?" General Brooks asked. "What kind of warning?" "We tell them the truth. We tell them what they are really dealing with. We give them one chance to leave before they find out the hard way." Dr. Alex Chun, the government's best expert on languages, was brought in to help write the message. He was a thin man with nervous hands, but his mind was sharp. He had studied every language on Earth and had theories about how to communicate with alien species. "The message needs to be simple," Dr. Chun said. "Something they cannot misunderstand. Something that shows them we are not like the other species they have conquered." They worked for hours on the message. It needed to be perfect. It needed to be clear. It needed to be threatening without being stupid. Finally, they had it. President Clark read it aloud to the room. This is the planet Earth speaking to the Zephyrian Empire. You have made a mistake. You have studied our technology and found it primitive. You have counted our weapons and found them weak. You have watched our wars and think you understand us, but you do not. We are not like the other species you have conquered. We are the only species on our planet because we destroyed or outlasted everything else. We have been fighting for survival for millions of years. Every weapon we have built was designed to kill something that was trying to kill us. Every strategy we used was learned by fighting enemies who wanted to destroy us completely. You think, we are primitive, but we are not. We are survivors. We are warriors, we are humanity. Leave our system now, or learn why we are still here when nothing else is. The room was quiet when she finished reading. Everyone knew this message would either save humanity or doom it completely. Are we really going to send this? Admiral Collins asked. We are, President Clark said. If we are going to die, we will die as humans. We will not surrender without a fight. The message was sent on all frequencies toward the alien ships. It would take several minutes to reach them near Jupiter on the lead Zephyrian ship. Fleet Admiral Corvan was reviewing the final attack plans when the human message arrived. He listened to it with amusement. Another primitive species making desperate threats. He had heard it all before. They claim to be warriors, he said to his officers. They claim to be dangerous. Look at their pathetic ships. Look at their crude weapons. They are like children playing with toys. Should we respond to their message? Asked his communications officer. No, Corvan said. We will respond with weapons. Prepare the attack fleet. These humans will learn what real power looks like. But as he gave his orders, Fleet Admiral Corvan did not notice the detailed scans his ship had been taking of Earth. He did not see the underground bunkers filled with nuclear weapons. He did not understand the orbital platforms that looked like simple satellites. He did not realize that every major city on Earth was surrounded by defensive systems that had been built to fight other humans. The aliens had been watching humanity. For months, they had seen human wars and human weapons, but they had not understood what they were seeing. They thought they were looking at a primitive species fighting over resources. They were wrong. They were looking at a species that had turned warfare into an art form. A species that had spent thousands of years learning how to fight and survive against impossible odds. The countdown continued. In 36 hours, the Zephyrian Empire would attack Earth. They expected an easy victory against a primitive species. Instead, they were about to learn why humanity was the most dangerous species in the galaxy. Fleet Admiral Corvan stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the blue planet grow larger on his screens. Earth looked peaceful from this distance, like a jewel floating in the darkness of space. He had conquered many worlds, but few had been as beautiful as this one. Begin the attack, he ordered his weapons officer. Target their major cities first. Use minimum power. We want to show them our strength without destroying everything. The Zephyrian ships moved closer to Earth, their weapons charging with deadly energy. 3 massive vessels against 1 small planet. This would be over quickly. Firing weapons now, the officer reported. Beams of pure energy shot from the alien ships toward Earth. They were aimed at New York, London, Tokyo, and other major cities. The beams were designed to destroy buildings and kill thousands of people, but not to damage the planet itself. But something strange happened. The energy beams hit invisible barriers around the cities and scattered into harmless light. The weapons that could destroy entire city blocks barely left scorch marks on the ground. What happened? Corvan demanded. Why did our weapons not work? Unknown. Sir, the weapons officer said, checking his instruments. The energy beams were deflected by some kind of shielding, but our scanners show no defensive technology on the planet. Corvan frowned. This had never happened before. No primitive species had ever stopped Zephyrian weapons. Increase power to full strength, he ordered. Target the same cities again. On Earth, Captain Amy Foster was in the command center of the Human Space Defense Station. She was a small woman with sharp eyes and steady hands. She had been waiting for this moment for 3 years, ever since the government had started building the secret defense network. "The aliens are charging their weapons again," reported her tactical officer. "Energy readings are much higher this time." "Good," Captain Foster said calmly. "Let them waste their power. Activate the mirror satellites." High above Earth, hundreds of small satellites that looked like space junk suddenly came to life. They had been disguised as broken communication equipment, but they were actually advanced defensive weapons. When the alien energy beams hit them, they did not absorb the energy. They reflected it back at the attacking ships. The Zephyrian vessels were suddenly hit by their own weapons. Their shields flared as they absorbed the reflected energy, but the ships were not seriously damaged. However, Fleet Admiral Corvin was no longer amused. "How is this possible?" he asked his science officer. "These humans have primitive technology. They should not be able to do this." "Sir, I am detecting massive energy signatures all over their planet," the science officer reported. "Underground installations, orbital platforms, hidden weapon systems. They have been preparing for this attack?" "Impossible," Corvin said. "Our intelligence reports showed that they have only 12 small ships and basic nuclear weapons." "The reports were wrong, sir. They have been hiding their true capabilities. This species is more advanced than we thought." Suddenly, the human ships that had been orbiting Earth began to move. They were small compared to the Zephyrian vessels, but they moved with surprising speed and coordination. Instead of charging directly at the alien ships, they spread out and began to surround them. Admiral Jake Collins was commanding the human fleet from the bridge of his ship, the Liberty. He had spent his whole career preparing for battles that he hoped would never come. Now that the moment was here, he felt strangely calm. "All ships, begin attack pattern Gamma," he ordered. "Remember, we are not trying to win a fair fight. We are trying to survive." The human ships opened fire, but not with the weapons the aliens expected. Instead of energy beams or simple missiles, they fired clouds of small objects that looked like space debris. The objects spread out and began to orbit the alien ships like a swarm of angry insects. "What are they doing?" Kovan asked his tactical officer. "Unknown, sir. The objects appear to be some kind of kinetic weapons, but they are too small to damage our ships." "Then ignore them," Corvin ordered. "Focus on destroying their ships." But the small objects were not designed to damage the alien ships directly. They were designed to map their shields and weapon systems. Each object contained advanced sensors that analyzed the alien technology and sent the information back to the human fleet. Within minutes, the humans knew exactly how the alien ships worked. They knew where the weapons were located, how the shields operated, and where the weak points were. This information was immediately shared with every human ship and defensive station. Dr. Lisa Morgan was in the command center with President Clark, watching the battle unfold on the main screen. She had been right about the aliens not understanding humanity, but even she was surprised by how effective the human defenses were. "How are we doing this?" President Clark asked. "Our technology is supposed to be primitive compared to theirs." "It is not about having better technology," Lisa explained. "It is about using technology differently. They build weapons to conquer. We build weapons to survive. Every system we have was designed to fight enemies who have advantages over us." On the screen, they could see the human ships beginning their real attack. Instead of fighting the alien vessels directly, they were using tactics that the aliens had never seen before. Some ships pretended to be damaged and drifted toward the alien fleet like harmless debris. Others launched what looked like escape pods, but were actually guided bombs. Captain Ben Turner was commanding one of the smaller human ships, the Defiance. His ship had been hit by alien weapons and was badly damaged, but it was still operational. Instead of retreating, he had a different plan. "All crew to escape pods," he ordered. "We are going to ram their flagship." "Sir, that is suicide," his first officer protested. "No, Turner said calmly. That is tactics. They think we fight like civilized beings. They are wrong. We fight like humans. The Defiance accelerated toward the alien flagship, its nuclear reactor overloading. The aliens tried to shoot it down, but the small ship was too fast and too unpredictable. It crashed into the side of the Zephyrian vessel. Just as its reactor exploded, the explosion tore a massive hole in the alien ship's hull. For the first time in the battle, a Zephyrian vessel was seriously damaged. Fleet Admiral Corvin stared at the tactical display in shock. His flagship was crippled, and his fleet was surrounded by human ships that fought like nothing he had ever encountered before. These humans did not follow the rules of civilized warfare. They used their own ships as weapons. They turned their weaknesses into strengths. "Sir, we are receiving another transmission from the humans," his communications officer reported. "Put it through," Corvin ordered. The voice that came through the speakers was calm and cold. It was Dr. Lisa Morgan, speaking for all of humanity. "This is Earth. We tried to warn you. We told you that we are not like the other species you have conquered. We are the survivors of a death world. We are the species that destroyed the dinosaurs and survived the ice ages. We are the apex predators of our planet. You came here expecting to find prey. Instead, you found predators. This is your last chance to leave. Next time, we will not be so gentle." Fleet Admiral Corvin looked at his damaged ships and his confused officers. For the first time in his long career, he was facing an enemy that he did not understand. These humans were not just fighting for their lives. They were enjoying it. The battle was not over, but the outcome was no longer certain. The Zephyrian Empire had finally met their match. Fleet Admiral Corvin watched in horror as his second-largest ship began to break apart. The humans had somehow turned the wreckage from their own destroyed vessels into a weapon. The debris field around his fleet was not random junk. It was a carefully planned minefield that activated when his ships tried to move. "Sir, the humans are using their destroyed ships as bombs," his tactical officer reported. "Every piece of debris contains explosives or guidance systems. They are turning our own movement against us." Corvin had conquered over 200 worlds. He had faced desperate species before, but he had never seen anything like this. Most intelligent species tried to preserve their technology and their lives. These humans were using their own ships as weapons without hesitation. "How many ships have we lost?" he asked. "The destroyer is completely destroyed. The Conqueror is disabled and drifting. Our flagship is severely damaged." "Sir, we are losing this battle." Corvin could not believe what he was hearing. His fleet was superior in every way. His ships were bigger, faster, and more advanced. His weapons were more powerful. Yet somehow, these primitive humans were defeating him. Captain Amy Foster was coordinating the human attack from her command center. She had been studying alien warfare tactics for 3 years, preparing for this exact moment. Every strategy she used came from thousands of years of human military experience. "All ships initiate valve pack formation," she ordered. "Target their engines and weapon systems. Do not engage their main hulls." The remaining human ships spread out and began attacking the alien vessels from multiple directions. Instead of trying to destroy the massive ships directly, they focused on disabling them. It was a strategy that humans had developed for fighting larger enemies. "Captain, the aliens are trying to retreat," reported her communications officer. "Let them," Foster said. "But make sure they understand what they are running from." On the alien flagship, Fleet Admiral Corvin was dealing with multiple system failures. His weapons were offline, his engines were damaged, and his shields were failing. The human attacks had been precisely targeted to disable his ship without destroying it. "Sir, we need to withdraw," his first officer said. "Our ships are too damaged to continue fighting." "How is this possible?" Corvin demanded. "They have only a few small ships. We have an entire fleet." "They do not fight like other species," the first officer explained. "They do not try to preserve their forces. They sacrifice their ships to damage ours. They use tactics we have never seen before." "Sir, we are receiving another transmission," the communications officer reported. Put it through, Corvin said. This time, the voice belonged to President Susan Clark. She was speaking from the White House, addressing not just the alien fleet, but the entire Zephyrian Empire. This is President Clark of Earth. Your attack on our world has failed. Your ships are disabled, your weapons are useless. But we are not finished with you yet. The transmission was being broadcast on all frequencies, reaching every Zephyrian ship in the fleet and every communication station in their empire. You came here thinking we were weak. You thought we were like the other species you have conquered? But we are not. We are humanity. We are the species that survived when the giant creatures called dinosaurs ruled our world. We are the species that lived through ice ages and asteroid impacts. We are the species that fought wars for thousands of years and became stronger with each battle. Dr. Lisa Morgan was standing next to President Clark, watching the transmission go out to the galaxy. This was the moment she had been preparing for since the aliens first appeared. Every weapon you have seen today was built by humans to fight other humans, President Clark continued. Every tactic we used was learned in battles against our own kind. You think our technology is primitive, but you are wrong. Our technology is designed for one purpose: to kill things that are trying to kill us. The transmission was being picked up by monitoring stations across the galaxy. Other species that had been conquered by the Zephyrian Empire were hearing this message. For the first time in centuries, someone was standing up to the Empire and winning. We are not your victims, President Clark said. We are your nightmare. We are the species that turned warfare into an art form. We are the predators that your empire has been looking for without knowing it. Fleet Admiral Corvin listened to the transmission with growing fear. This was not just a military defeat. This was a disaster for the entire empire. If word of this battle spread, other conquered species might rebel. The empire's reputation for invincibility was being destroyed. Sir, we need to leave immediately, his first officer urged. Our ships cannot take much more damage. All ships withdraw from the system, Corvin ordered. Full retreat. But as the alien ships tried to leave, they discovered that the humans had one final surprise. The same debris field that had been attacking them was now blocking their escape route. The humans had anticipated their retreat and prepared for it. Sir, we cannot leave, the navigation officer reported. The debris field is too dense. If we try to go through it, we will be destroyed. Captain Foster opened a communication channel to the alien fleet. This is Captain Foster of the Earth Defense Force. You are surrounded. Your ships are disabled, but we are not going to destroy you. We are going to let you leave with a message. What message? Corvin asked. Tell your empire what you found here. Tell them that Earth is not to be touched. Tell them that humanity is not like the other species they have conquered. Tell them that we are the apex predators of our world, and now we are the apex predators of the galaxy. The debris field slowly moved aside, creating a clear path for the alien ships to escape. The Zephyrian fleet limped away from Earth, their hulls damaged and their pride broken. Dr. Lisa Morgan was back in her office, monitoring the alien ships as they left the solar system. They were broadcasting a message to their empire, marking human space as a forbidden zone. The message was simple: do not approach the Sol system. The species there is extremely dangerous. 3 days later, monitoring stations across the galaxy picked up a new transmission. It was coming from Earth, and it was addressed to every intelligent species in the galaxy. This is Earth. We are humanity. We are the species that survived ice ages, asteroid impacts, and thousands of years of warfare. We are not your enemies, but we are not your prey either. We are the guardians of our world and the defenders of our people. Any species that comes to our system in peace will be welcomed. Any species that comes to our system with violence will learn why we are the only intelligent species on our planet. The transmission ended with coordinates for peaceful contact and a warning about the consequences of aggression. Within a year, the Zephyrian Empire had stopped expanding for the first time in centuries. Other species began to rebel against their conquerors, inspired by humanity's victory. The balance of power in the galaxy had shifted. Earth had become the most feared planet in the galaxy, not because of superior technology, but because of something far more dangerous, the human spirit. Humanity had proven that they were not just survivors. They were the species that other species had nightmares about. The galaxy had learned an important lesson. Never threaten a species that had spent millions of years learning how to fight and survive, because when you do, you discover that some prey are actually predators in disguise.